Good morning to everybody. To thank the organizers, Lydia Falomo and I decided to concentrate on the relation between Pisa and Pavia from 1860 to 1942. Why that?
Do we need a microphone? Do we need a microphone?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Is it okay?
It's better, thank you. So, just for our foreign guest, a little description of our tertiary educational system. We had lots of prime ministers in the period, despite the fact that Mussolini stayed there for 20 years, but we had also lots of ministers of education. And what is interesting for us is that 45 of these 62 ministers were university professors. An important role was played by the High Council of Education, which was a body of people first nominated and then nominated and elected. And there were first 21, then 31. And again, between 1881 and 1923, of the 255 members, 206 were university professors. Many of these were deputies, which means elected, or senators, which means nominated, not elected. And the universities were divided in two leagues, an A League and a B League. In yellow, I hope you can see the A League universities, and the number of representatives in the High Council from this A League universities was much bigger than the B League university. I'll come back to that in a moment. The recruitment system was made by national competitions, 5 examiners, 1 plus 2 winners, and but the faculties would call from usually the A League universities could call by shift the professors of the B League universities. Now, between the two kind of universities, there was a great disparity in salaries. So the B League professors, of course, were interested in going in A League, but there was also a difference in the laboratories, equipment, and so on. In Pavia, we had in this period 7 professors. Cantoni, who by Pies is considered as a pioneer of the new interpretation of the Brownian motion. Bartoli, who is famous for the thermodynamical derivation of radiation pressure. Michele Cantone for magnetic hysteresis. Enrico Salvioni for the fluoroscope. Alessandro Merio dealt with the solar radiation. Adolfo Campetti, who later in 36 wanted his name to change in Giovanni for obvious reasons, was interested in multiple spectroscopy. And Rita Brunetti, which was the best of the lot, was an early adopter of quantum mechanics. You can see here the 4th from the bottom left, while at the Normale in Pisa. Here we have Cantoni, Bartoli, Cantone, and Amerigo. Now, how did this professor came to Pavia? Cantoni had an appointment in 60 before the unification in Italy, when only Lombardy and was next to Piedmont. Then Bartoli shifted from Catania. Michele Cantone, a competition in 1897 in Pavia, the year in which Giovanni Cantoni died. Enrico Salvioni shifted from Messina. Alessandro Merio shifted from Messina. Campetti shifted from Catania. Brunetti shifted from Cagliari, which means shift from B League to A League universities. Now, which was the background? And here we come to the relation with Pisa, to the colonization, we can say, of Pavia. Giovanni Cantone took a degree in Pavia, but Bartoli was the assistant of Betty and Felici. We will know everything about Felici this afternoon. But then he went to work with Reuti in Florence in 1880. Then Michele Cantone, the same, went to work with Reuti, and then you can see also Salvioni, who took a degree in Pavia, then went to Florence, and Amerio the same, and Campetti took his degree in Pisa, and Brunetti took a degree in Pisa, and then went to Florence as assistant of Garbasso, was the successor of Reuti. So I want to remind you that Mossotti took his degree in Pavia in 1811 with Brunacci, so the seeds, the good seeds were there, and all this stuff, you know. And what is interesting is that of the 14 assistants of Reuti, 8 will have a university chair. This professor had an enormous influence in his lifetime on the recruitment of the university system in Italy. And Garbasso, who was his successor, who had an international experience, had been for 4 years at Pisa, then took the place of Reuti in Florence from 1913. Now, this is the main slide. The competitions. In 1897, Pavia called a chair of experimental physics. The examiners were Blaserna from Rome, Reuti from Florence, Villari from Naples, Naccari from Turin, and Cardani. Now the winners, the 3 winners were Cantone first, Salvioni, and Garbasso and Sella ex aequo. It's interesting that Quirino Majorana, despite working with Blaserna, was considered not eligible, which is a rather heavy judgment. In 1920 there was a competition in Messina, and 2 of the previous candidate winners are now examiners, Garbasso and Cantone. And then Cantone at the time was in Naples, and then Somigliana, Righi was the president, and Corbino was also in the commission. The winners were Amerio, Campetti, and Occhialini in the order. And it's interesting that Amaduzzi, who was the candidate of Righi, didn't get elected, despite Righi being the president of the commission. Righi wrote a minority report. And in 24, there was a sort of confirmation of, after 3 years, of the winners. And again, we see Garbasso, Cantone, Somigliana, Quirino, Majorana, this time an examiner, and Levi Civita. Now, something that doesn't deal completely, but it might be of some interest, in the famous 26 competition in Cagliari in mathematical physics, the winners were Giorgi, Fermi, and Serini. And Lidia Borghi, Lidia Falomo Bernarduzzi, Michael Reiter found in the archives of the faculty the proceedings of the 13th of November 26 and the 15th of November 26, in which the Pavia faculty gave Fermi, they called Fermi on the chair of mathematical physics. The chair, Fermi was the second. And then Fermi denied, because in the time he had the chair of theoretical physics in Rome, and so the third candidate got Serini got the job. In Again, we see that in this competition for theoretical physics, the first in Italy, the examiners were always the same: Corbino, Cantone, Garbasso, Quirino, Majorana. And in 26 there was a competition for experimental physics in Bari, and again Garbasso, Corbino, Quirino, Majorana were the examiners, and the results was Polvani, Brunetti, Pacini. Now Pavia called of these people Cantone, who won the competition, but then Salvioni shifted to Pavia, then Amerio and Campetti, and then well, also Serini got the job, but then Brunetti. So these are the shifts, and I've showed before that most of these people had been trained in one way or another, had been trained in Pisa. Now, in the High Council there were some influential physicists. For instance, Petti, who stayed there for a long time, from 67 to 92, Giovanni Cantoni, Pietro Blaserna, Antonio Reuti, as we have seen, and some of them were senators, deputies, and president of the Italian Society of Physics, and members of the Lincei Academy. And also there were influential physicists, influential examiners, also not belonging to the High Council, like Basso, Corbino, Cantone, Somigliana, Righi, and Majorana. We see that lots of them were president of the Physical Society, members of the academic of the Licei, senators, this one Corbino, minister twice, and so on and so on. So there was a very small group of people who determined the outcome of these exams. Very important, the generational changes, particularly this one between 1916 1926, because the old experimental physicists died and some new ones managed to take the stage, and but unfortunately some of these, Garbasso, Corbino and Brunetti, died rather young, which was a big loss for Italian physics. As well as at the turn of the century, some theoretical physicists like Basso, Bartoli and Sella, the son of Quintino Sella, died young, another big loss. So it's interesting also to have a quick look at the candidates who were not winners to evaluate the system. Some became famous afterwards, like Lussana, Quirino Majorana, and Trabacchi. Trabacchi got, even if not winning, got a very fair judgment. And but the other ones are not particularly relevant. And so, concluding, was it a good recruitment system? I don't think so. I don't think it was a good system. First of all, there were too many universities for the budget. Italy was constantly at war between Risorgimento, the civil war called Brigantaggio, the colonial wars, the world wars. Shifting from B to A was unfair to B, who could never establish something stable, and sometimes also unfair to candidates, because it gave the faculties the possibility of selection between the candidates. And there are two cases, one of a female mathematician, Nalli, who was not called to Pavia, and Croce wrote a pamphlet against the system to defend Gentile. At the beginning they were friends. The selection power was in very few hands, but selection of candidates not unfair. Ludovico Gemona, the famous Italian philosopher and historian of science, was in favor of this baronal approach, because he said if there are few people, if somebody deserves a chair and doesn't get one time, and will get the next time. If instead there are always new people, the situation is up for grabs and there is a great deal of confusion. I think also there were too many professors in important political roles, something that we don't see in the other countries in Europe, and this is a loss for research. And then very slow systemic updates, for instance the delay of theoretical physics in Italy, because it was up to professors of experimental physics to establish a chair in theoretical physics. A system for dominance, unity, stability, not innovation. Now a few seconds for a personal recollection. All Pisa has been important also in the field of history physics, because in the early 70s the Domus Galileiana here in Pisa played an important role. In 72 November there was an exam for scholarship. The examiners were Gemolo, Berenzini of Pisa, that is mentioned in the paper about the history of physics in Pisa by Paolo Rossi and co-worker, Maccagni of Genova, Cappelletti of Roma, and lots of people who have taken a role in this group of history of physics got a scholarship, and that's the way in which things started. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions?
You probably know the paper by Sandro Graffi on competitions, university competitions in Italy between 1870 and 1920. If you don't know it, I suggested that you read it. It's on mathematics competitions. It fits perfectly with what you have been saying today.
Good, thank you. Yes?
Rome is in class A of Rome University.
Rome University afterwards was of course in class A, but at the beginning the law was of 63 and Rome was not part of the Italian state. So at the beginning it was not classified, but later...
Then a personal opinion, I think it was better.
Thanks for that overview. You made a slide into European-wide comparison, and I was just wondering, did you make a comparison, for example, to the German recruiting system? Again, my impression, without having studied in depth, is that it was quite a few persons who were really dominant and shaped the thing. But did you do such a thing? Or no, France, by the way. So.
No, I didn't do that. But I wanted to make clear that in Italy was a national competition. That is, was not a local appointment with influential people. Maybe at the national level, but this was all organized at the national level. All the university had no autonomy, but were organized, centralized. It was a very centralized system, and still is in great part. So this I think, and also it doesn't seem that in Germany Helmholtz or other famous people became ministers of education. I mean, you know, instead here. Even today, there are lots of university professors in government. I think they should be better in the university producing something.
Later, the might be there.
Okay, should be interesting to compare that situation of recruitment with the present one, but this is another story.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, cool.